8. And the consistently 2, 3, 4. Hello?
Yes, you continue, please.
Okay, LDP4 consists of LDP with the weight percentage 8 and the bitumen is 92. And about the characterization of the material, as we know that the bitumen is a viscous material. It's difficult to move in a frequent manner. As in the implementation of the LDP, the viscosity level is be high. We have assessed the rotational viscosity tests were conducted according to at 135 degrees Celsius. And the penetration and softening point we have conducted, and FTIR analysis we have conducted. Like as you know that the Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy as one of the eminent and excellent method to assess the property of the bitumen. And TG analysis also conducted in order to get the thermographic analysis. And rheological analysis we have done to ensure the smooth running of the bitumen with along with the LDP. And the result and discussion we have discussing here, the viscosity rate, the enhancement of viscosity with the rise in the polyethylene concentration is due to the presence of asphaltene. The result in formation of complex internal structure. But the increased viscosity may affect the workability of the mix rate for 8% of the weight. And the result and discussion, the penetration and softening, the reduction in the penetration of the bitumen polymer blend shows the increased hardening of the bitumen with the addition of polymer. The complexation of internal structure due to the polymer result in the rise in the softening point. The modified mix has been better resistance to deformation at a very range in the temperature and strong enough to resist the rutting. The result and discussion to the FTIR spectroscopy, the Fourier transformation infrared spectroscopy, we have changed the level between the LDP 6% to 2%. And the result and discussion rutting the fatigue properties, it is very dramatic changes in the property while adding the LDP. The result has under the higher limit of fatigue prominent at lower temperature. In the case of higher temperature, the concluding that the polymer bitumen mixer has enough to rutting and fatigue resistance. And we are moving to the result and discussion, the thermal gravimetric analysis. The primetin and the bitumen shows the higher decomposition than the modified sample. And the reduced decomposition of modified sample is due to reduced evaporation. And this makes it clear that these modified samples have greater stability over varying temperature. And I am concluding our research topic here. The major findings we have concluded the usage of LDP in the bitumen not only give the economical manner but also give the environmental friendly material. The performance of pristine asphalt has been identified by the polyethylene addition. The major thing is the temperature stability was higher side by modified bitumen and mixes. Discussing about the limitation, the viscous seems to affect the workability at higher concentration of polymer. And the additive concentration of 4% can be suggested to get optimum workability along with the increased overall performance. As we know that the workability thing is one of the crucial element for doing the road making pavement. So one of the best method is to use the 4%, and the conclusion can be summarized. The incorporation additive gives favorable effect on the rheological and the property of the flow materials. So I'm thanking you for giving the opportunity to share our new research. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vishnu Vijayan, for this first presentation on day 2. Let us take some questions from the chat box. Dr. Avardeep Bura has asked you, does some water contamination effect means some adverse effect after getting dissolved with water?
Yes, sir. Definitely, it will affect the water contaminant in the LDP. But we are in the another steps to analyze the how much quantity of water will be reflect the quality and the quantity of the LDP.
Okay. Okay. One query is from my side that whether using these types of materials, which are chemicals, does it affect? Does it has a will affect the water table of the soil also?
Yes, sir. Water table also will affect, but in the case of viscosity things, it will be recommendable for using LDP.
So, which you will prefer, or which is more preferable, HDPE or LDPE will be useful?
Definitely, low density polymer modified bitumen is the best thing we are considering for the pavement making. comparing with the HDP. As you know that the road pavement construction, the viscosity is a crucial element. So we are using the low density polymer gives an excellent workability compared with HDP.
Any practical issues it has while implementing it in the real life structures or real when we execute in the field?
Yes, sir. Actually, we are looking for the further studies based on this research. Actually, we are the first things we are finding these things of like the replacement of bitumen with the LDP and HDP. In upcoming stage, we will definitely give you an exact idea how we can use the materials in the future purpose related to the HDP and LDP in the road making purpose.
For sustainable environment, I think it produces hazard gases during bitumen production.
Actually, the wastage of the plastics makes a big issues to the environment, but we can use to the road making things. It will be reduce the sustainable aspects. As we know that we are throwing out the many plastic, especially we are considered as the shredded plastic for the use. We can use
Yeah.
in the replacement of the bitumen, and we can avoid the sustainable concern.
Okay, okay.
Not
Thank you very
100%,
much.
70% we can reduce the sustainable impact.
Okay, thank you, Vishnu, for this presentation and for clearing the queries.
Thank you so much, sir.
You may,
Thanks.
okay. Next presenter, I would like to invite paper ID 57, Srinivasa Rao T. You please upload your presentation and continue.
എന്തുവാടേ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്?
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, you are
Hello.
audible.
And slideshow is also visible, sir.
Slide is visible, but it's not on the full screen mode. There is some
Okay,
compatibility
just let me share
issues,
the
I
entire
think.
screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, sir?
Yes, yes, yes. Now it's okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, good morning, everyone. So, today in this presentation, I'm going to present a small case study which we have done in Hyderabad city. So, which is identification of parking sites in Kukatpalli region using analytical hierarchy process and GIS. So coming to the contents of the presentation, we are going to discuss first of all introduction, then objectives, then methodology, and what is analytical hierarchy process, and in the end we will be discussing a little bit about the results. So coming to the introduction part, so why we have did this case study on Hyderabad area. Hyderabad is one of the most populous cities in the world as well as in the country, and it has a population of nearly 7 million. And total area of the Hyderabad is equal to, I mean, like approximately 650 square kilometer. And one of the major problems that is present in this Hyderabad when it pertains to the road traffic is parking facilities. So most of the like traffic related problems are due to the insufficient parking space available in the city. And vehicles, if we look at, they require not only some space for moving, but also they require some space when they are not moving. Out of 8,760 hours in a year, so only a partial amount, like less than 1/10 or less than 5% of the time, vehicles will be moving on the road. Remaining 90% of the time, vehicles have to be parked somewhere else. So and when it comes to the parking, every owner wants to park his car as close to the destination as possible, so that he can minimize his walking distance. So these are some of the newspaper clippings which show us where we are standing in terms of traffic and how the vehicle numbers are growing each year in Hyderabad city. So in this Hyderabad city, we have selected a small area, that is Kukatpalli, as our study region, so that we can do a compact study in a much efficient manner. So the objectives of this particular study are to assess the parking demand and locate suitable parking sites in Kukatpalli region of Hyderabad using MCDM methodology. So which means multi-criteria decision-making methodology. So that is AHP, analytical hierarchy process, and geographical information system. So once we are done with the assessment, so we can create a map of parking suitability index for Kukatpalli region. So these two are the objectives of our study. So coming to the methodology part of this particular study, so first of all, we have to select suitable criteria for public parking site selection. Here, suitable criteria in the sense, so this is a decision making problem. While determining best site for a parking facility, we will be looking at certain factors. What are those factors we have to look for? Is it like a lot of area has to be there, or is it should be close to the road? In that way, we have to select certain criteria for identification of parking site. So those criteria we have to select. That is the first part. After that, so selection of the study area. Once we are having those criteria in our hand, so we have moved to identification of study area. In this case, we took Kukatpalli region as a study area. After that, so we have used analytical hierarchy process, which is a multi-criteria decision-making model. So I will discuss more about analytical hierarchy process in the coming slides. So analytical hierarchy process is one of the efficient method for solving decision-making problems. That's why we have used this analytical hierarchy process. And whatever weights we get for different criteria in analytical hierarchy process, that are used in a GIS-based framework for performing overlay analysis for getting suitable site index map. So once we get the results, these can be compared with the existing parking facilities in a GIS-based framework, so that we can derive some meaningful conclusions. So this is a methodology part. So coming to the parking site selection criteria. So here in this study, we have divided the criteria into two levels based on the existing literature and from small surveys which we have conducted. So in the level 1, all criteria are divided into two categories: trip attraction centers and roads. So trip attraction centers in the sense, so which attracts most maximum vehicles towards it. It can be a school, or it can be a shopping mall, or it can be a theater. Such type of facilities fall under trip attraction centers. And roads in the sense, roads are whenever we are stopping our vehicle, we want to keep our vehicle a little bit close to the road. So that's why another thing is roads. So there are two categories: one is trip attraction center, another one is road. And in level 2, sub criteria we have created. For example, when you talk about trip attraction centers, they are divided into commercial centers, cultural centers, recreational centers, administrative centers, hospitals, and educational centers. So these sub criteria are taken from the literature. So this way, criteria are divided into two levels. So these criteria are implemented in these criteria are used in analytical hierarchy process. So before going into that, analytical hierarchy process is a multi-criteria decision-making method which is developed nearly in the year 1970s. So it considers all criteria for decision making, and all these criteria are ranked based on the user's opinion, and each criteria is assigned with a weight. For example, if we talk about how to choose a best leader, we will be looking at certain points for selecting the leader. Maybe it is experience, education, is charisma, or age. Based on when we compare these four, so on a scale of 1 to 9, if you have to rate them, some people will be rating education is more important than the experience, or charisma is more important than the experience, or age is more important than the experience. So in this fashion, we will compare each factor, and we will weigh them on a scale of we will rate them on a scale of 1 to 9, and after ratings, so weightages will be calculated through mathematical process, so which will get us how much important each particular factor is. So in this fashion, so the attraction centers and distance from roads, whatever criteria we have taken, those are also divided into further subcategories, and calculation of weights is done, which I have shown in the next slide. So after these weights are calculated, these weights are used in overlay analysis for calculation of parking site suitability index. So here, when we are talking about distance from commercial center, so distance from commercial center, when it is compared with the distance from cultural and recreational facility, so parking facility, provision of parking facility near to the commercial center is more important than provision of parking facility near to cultural or recreational center. That is why we have given a rating of 6 on a scale of 1 to 9 for distance from commercial center when you are comparing it with the cultural center. In this fashion, the entire matrix is created and the weightages are calculated, and in the same fashion, so level 1 weights are also calculated. So these weights are used in this particular relation, so for calculation of parking site suitability index map. So once the weights are calculated based on the distances which I have mentioned here, based on these factors which I have mentioned here, so Euclidean distance maps are created in a GIS framework, and these maps are reclassified further based on the weightages whatever we have determined. So, and in the end, to combine all these maps, so we have used this mathematical equation again in the GIS framework to finally generate a suitability index map. So these are the different maps we have created for each criteria: commercial center, administrative center, and etc. And these are all Euclidean distance maps. We can see that when we are talking about commercial center, the best facility, the best place would be the site which is near to less than 100 meter, and the second best option is to have a parking site facility in between 100 and 225 meter, and next is 225 to 350, and last option is greater than 350 meter. So in this fashion, based on distance, so which location is best, so we have identified using the GIS for each separate criteria, and these zones are assigned with weights, and those zones are combined using this particular equation. So here these numbers indicate the weights which we have calculated from the framework, and so that we will get a parking site suitability index. So in the final result, whatever weight we are getting, whatever index map we are getting, so that is on a scale of 0 to 100. So here in this particular study, we have assigned 0 to 30 as not suitable, and 30 to 45 as moderately suitable, and greater than 45 as highly suitable. So here in this study, the maximum value of suitability index is found to be 58.5. This indicates lack of highly suitable parking areas in the study. So this map indicate, first of all, before going to the Kukatpalli area, we have done a core study for entire Hyderabad for selecting all those criteria. So when we compared with the existing parking site facilities and obtained parking site facilities, so we can see there is a lot of difference at certain places. This indicates parking site facilities, whatever that are present now, are not designed in a systematic fashion. So we finally moved to the site. So finally, we have developed the parking site suitability index for the Kukatpalli region in this particular fashion. So coming to the conclusions, in this study, less than 10% of the existing area demands for the efficient parking facilities, and parking site suitability index values seen to be maximum values seen to be 60, which is present at very few locations in the problem, which is seen to be present at very few locations in the study area. This indicates segregated development in key areas, while parking demand is expected to be high. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivasa Rao T, for this presentation. Now I would take some queries from your presentation. Dr. Amardeep has asked few questions. It will be better if I ask Dr. Amardeep to unmute and ask some questions if it's possible.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saurav. So I would like to ask first, that is for the parking facility, first you could do some origin and destination survey. On the basis of that, you will come to know
Yes.
how many vehicles and what type of vehicles will come to that specific location and for how much durations. so that you could take for like to initiate your study. So that will also make strengthen, and while doing so, as all those people who are coming to the theaters for watching movie or for the shopping purposes, they have to like they are supposed to stay for more, not more than 3 hours, 2 hours, or likewise. Okay, so likewise we have to provide the
Correct.
parking facility, so we can separate those. Okay, and another thing, the
Correct.
traffic,
Correct.
whatever parking locations you are specifying over here using your GIS software. Okay, so you
Yes, sir.
could do some traffic volume analysis. So by looking at those,
Hmm.
maybe while provide you are going to provide your parking facility, may it will affect the traffic flow at that specific locations or the stretches. So that would be more
Correct, sir.
helpful.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Like
So
we will like
what
improve
what
upon
is
whatever
your
we have
point?
done. So first
Okay.
initial idea is to like assess where the traffic demand will be high, so that in general, like where parking demand is high, close to that area we have to provide the parking facilities. So with that conception only we have started with this work. So we will improve upon like your recommendations.
No. So actually, I want to ask whether you just take all this parameter into your consideration while doing this study, or just simply looking at the
No,
this
those
attraction
parameters we have
points or the.
not those parameters we have not considered at the moment. Like we did like manually we have surveyed where these facilities are present, and we have transferred them onto a map, and then so we did the analysis.
Okay. Okay then.
So thank you, Dr. Amardeep. Thank you for this presentation. Now I would like to invite paper ID 72, Deepak Kumar Sai, for his to start his presentation.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's audible.
Okay. Let me load my presentation.
Yes.
Sir, just open your presentation in the background and just look at that, not this window of Google Meet.
Okay.
Yes, right now it is okay. Just make
It's
it
okay,
full
sir.
screen.
Hi.
Yes, it's okay.
Kindly full screen it. Yes. Now it's
Yes.
okay. Continue. Okay.
Yeah. I hope now it's there.
Yes.
Sir, the topic is use of fly ash, a resourceful byproduct in road embankment, a review. So I'm going to talk about number of what has been done in past and recently also on the fly ash for using in the road embankment here. The picture which is there right now is showing that the fly ash is being spread for the road embankment construction. Okay. Now, what is fly ash? Let us try to understand what is fly ash. Fly ash is a acidic fine powder and is a waste product from TPP. TPP is thermal power station. India generates about 2 lakhs megawatt of power, and 72% of this power comes from the coal, burning of the coal. Now, this has generated a fly ash of 226.13 million tons in India. And disposal of this is a grave concern. Now, if we see the next slide, let me talk about coal. Coal is of 4 types. First, anthracite is not used, as this is used for making coking coal, and the rest 3 are used. Now, this is the chemical composition of 3 different types, leaving the anthracite, and where we can see SiO2, Al2O3, iron and iron oxide, calcium, etc. We can see here on that. Now, this is the chart which is showing the utilization of fly ash in 2019-20. Latest one is, this is the latest which Government of India has released. And here you can see this 17% is unutilized still. So that means we are not able to utilize the full quantity of fly ash which is generated from our thermal power plant. This is the chemical composition of fly ash written here. Now, this is the general geotech property which I have listed here. Is that is non-plastic. It is lighter than you can see MDD. If you see MDD, you see 0.9 to 1.6. OMC is this much. Now, this is what is the, here is one is very important, and very permeability of fly ash is very important here, because this is going to lead us to the use of this. Now, here you can see what is the advantages we get of fly ash. Fly ash is a pollutant. Now, still from this pollutant, we are now learning slowly for last 20-30 years that whether we can use it or not, because it's acidic, it's hazardous, it's very fine. So how to take advantage of this in spite of having its drawbacks? So you can see it is suitable for construction of weaker soil. The load transmitted is less because fly ash is lighter than soil. Here, the drainage is very fast because of permeability. And it because of particle size distribution, it's a better mix, gives a better mix. Since CO, MgO is less than OPC, OPC is ordinary Portland cement. So the structure made is durable. The cracks are less in this structure. So the structure lasts longer. As far as strength criteria development is the number 1. If we talk about 10 micron meter low calcium fly ash, then the particle size is directly proportional to the strength development. Inversely to the this size 45 micron, and for high calcium fly ash, less sensitive to particle size distribution. Now let me get into some reviews. Raymond and Joshi, actually I'm going to present a cocktail of old research work done and the new one also. So Raymond and Joshi, they worked on it and they proved by different experiment in UK and USA that it's a better fill material than soil because being lighter, number 1. Number 2, it requires less of space, less cost than the RE wall. retaining walls, which is to be made in the olden way. Number one, in the urban area where there is no space, hardly there is any space. So number one, existing buildings have to be dismantled that way. So now here, using fly ash, which gives us this advantage of lesser steeper areas. Number one. Now let us see this. Beckel in 2004, he studied for cold reasons, where in cold winter time, construction is not possible because of limitation of 40-degree tires to some 4-degree, 6-degree temperature, centigrade temperature. So here he used ice as a additive. And then he says the compaction is a crucial to water requirement. Sir, I am audible, I hope. Hello.
Yes, you are audible, sir.
And here you can see the OMC, if varies from 1 to 2 degree, 1 to 2%, then the complication in embankment construction. Number one. Number two, compacted fly ash actually he made two samples. One is at OMC and the second is 10% more than the OMC. And he says that what he has found is number one, this fly ash gives that advantage. How it is gives that advantage, let us see now in the coming slides. But there is a problem. There is a problem. Problem is put by this particular slide by IRC. IRC 58, SP 58 says that fly ash being acidic, you can't make number one, it come in contact with the RCC structures. So there is a isolation. This is the isolation which they have said 1 to 3 meter for a height of 3 meter. If the height of embankment is more than 3 meter, then it can be more also. And then top level has to be sealed. Now, this is a big constraint. This was studied by Basu and Saraswati in 2006. And he says, yes, more or less, this is okay, because that time only OPC was available. OPC is ordinary Portland cement was available. Now, the other special cement like slag cement, sulfur resistant cement, etc. were not available in the market. And people were not utilizing, only OPC was being used for all the jobs, whether it is for coastal area construction or construction in a salty soil area. Everywhere OPC was being done. So OPC has a limitation, and it becomes non-sulfate resistance. So this is what has been a problem. So now slowly this OPC is now available also, where granulated blast furnace slag is used, where 70% granulated blast furnace slag and 20% calcium sulfate is used, and 7% grade of the OPC, maybe for 33 grade or other grade can be used by mixing this. And this is how blast furnace slag is used. And this cement, particularly slag cement, was available for steel plant. ACC was making this cement, slag cement. And I have used this slag cement in Tata Steel for about 40 years back also. But it was available in market for a very, very less quantity, number one. Now let us go to the next slide. As regard the sulfate resistance, you can see Dustin 1980, as older as 1980, he proposed a formula. R is the resistance factor, is CaO minus 5 by Fe2O3. Now in percentage, if you see this Indian fly ash, you'll find CaO to be around 4, 5, 6% around that, mostly, leaving Navili lignite, where it is more than that. It is lignite-based mine, so lignite gives more of this particular CO. If we go for others other than bitumen, lignite based coal, then if 3 to 5 percent is there, if we take, let us say, take 5% also, okay, it is worst case in COA is 5%. So formula says 10% minus 5% is 5% and divided by iron oxide percentage, which is usually around 2 to 3. So 5% divided by 3% if we take, so it comes to 1.7. It says that if it is less than 1.5, R value is less than 1.5, then it helps improving the sulfate resistance. If it is more than 1.5, then this is a problem. As far as Indian fly ash is concerned, generally it is less than 1.5, leaving 1 or 2 cases. The Navili lignite is the leaving, that is the problem. Number two, the other advantages which we get about this fly ash is addition of fly ash to OPC reduces water demand, which is good for water cement ratio comes down, so strength increases. Now, if we see particle size, then for air entrant, it is again better. If we see Mr. Mukherjee and this others, 2013, it says lightweight material as compared to soil. Number two, compacted fly ash demonstrate higher shear strength, which is what we want. We can make steeper slopes in urban areas with fly ash, using fly ash. In the case of soil with weaker bearing area capacity, fly ash gives advantage. So permeability, we have already talked. Another advantage of permeability, high permeability, is during raining season also, you can work for more hours. Time available in the rainy season is more, because due to a higher permeability, water immediately gets down. So the area becomes dry. So that way, it helps us in number one, giving a dry area, which is good for the construction work. Now let us get into environment concern. As I told you, fly ash is pollutant, number one. Now the problem here comes coal or fly ash, burnt coal, this is fly ash, has heavy metals, it has radioactive metal, it has got magnetic metals also. Number one, now this has to be thoroughly examined for our India cases, fly ash, because environmentally there can be problem, radiation can be there, magnetic issues can be there. Though in 1 or 2 cases where fly ash bricks have been used in building. Okay, sir, I know, I'm about to finish. Number one, radioactivity has been checked by Atomic Energy Commission of India, and they have said that not much, it is below the limits. So number one, that is not a concern, but other areas also we should check apart from the building also. Now, how pollution is done is through water, air, and these deposits which we have. So it gets into groundwater also, air also, and this is how we inhale and we get into that. Now, a number of experiments researchers have done for heavy metals, for zinc also, lead also, and then other radioactive materials also. Number one. Actually, this has to be not taken as lightly. This particular radioactive property of fly ash, heavy metal leaching, and number 3 is the magnetic has to be get down to that, because pH water value, if it varies, in Indian context, it is from 3.4 pH to 12.1 pH. We get water here also. So that way, and higher pH value means problem also. So this is what we should now understand that. And we must get into every case has to be examined and then it should be done. Now, what is the future scope of research? The future scope of work which is there is number one, we have to see that autoclave cellular concrete, we have to do more work on this side, because when carbon content goes up to 12%, number one, we can't use it in RMC. So autoclave is the area where we can use it. So this area has to be where we have to work on this. Number three is heavy radioactive material. It has to be studied in India. India, unfortunately, we don't have much of a study. When I was going through the research paper, I found none of the paper except Mr. Pandyan. Otherwise, there is no work done in India on radioactive, heavy and magnetic work. Conclusion. Now, in spite of having a number of problems, it is an environment pollutant, it is a acidic, it is a hazardous material, then also it plays a very important raw material, because natural material like sand, gravel, stone dust, stone are not needed for this. See here only if we add slag, this fly ash, then this can serve the purpose and give you a better material. Number three is it enhances the property of number of property of properties. Number one, how? As I said, water demand comes down. It reduces the number one sulfate resistance if the R value is around or less than 1.5. So it gives us a lot of advantages in that. Also, since shear strength reduces, shear strength with fly ash increases, is more than soil, so reduction in cost. The slopes can be made steeper. So in urban areas, we get more space for making roads and other embankments. So number one, that so benefit is more, and whatever benefit we are not able to understand right now, that we have to get into research and find out the solutions for that. This is what is the demand of the hour. And thank you very much for listening to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak Kumar Sai, for this presentation. Now, let us take some queries from the chat box. One question has been asked that this is a general question that the provision to utilize maximum is 20% for fly ash in road construction as per Indian standards. How we can increase this percentage?
Number one, in road, actually, that is not the criteria. Criteria is for the cement, for mixing with the cement. Number one, when we make embedment, we can use fly ash to any quantity. So there is no 20%. We can actually, right now I'm working on a research project where I'm talking about soil is not needed for backfilling. Only fly ash should be used, and we should use the sulfate resistant cement. Why we are not using? Why we are not going for a special cement? Why are you still sticking to OPC? So number one, the restriction for using OPC, fly ash in road construction is not for cement. Here we are using for making embedment, for making the. So number one, that is a misconception. Actually, Government of India has issued a circular that up to 300 kilometer radius from a thermal power plant, it will deliver the fly ash, that TPP, a company has to give you the fly ash at 50% cost. Transportation cost has to be shared 50% up to 300 kilometer. And up to 100 kilometer radius, TPP has to share the entire transportation cost. That means Government of India is forcing us to use the fly ash in road work, in filling area. Okay, so number one, there's no such restrictions. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saab, for this wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite paper ID 59, Rahul Garg.
So good afternoon, everyone. So, sir, my screen is visible.
Yes, your screen is visible. You please full screen it.
Okay, sir. So my topic is minimization of risk in highway projects using buffer. So what is time buffer? So basically, time buffer in a project management is the extra time we add into time estimate to keep our project on track. So we can compensate for the adverse consequences of risk events during projects. So in this, we have considered a buffer as a time buffer. Buffer are of various types like time buffer, capacity buffer, and plan buffers. So we have added buffer in this research is a time buffer. So fuzzy logic. So fuzzy is defined as a branch of modern mathematics that was formulated to model vagueness or to solve ill-defined or complicated problems. Because sometimes data is not so clear and there may be imprecise information. So for this we have used a fuzzy logic over here. So fuzzy logic also have various advantages like it is convenient for risk assessment in construction projects that are vulnerable to external factors such as geological condition, climate, and where probabilistic assessment is very difficult due to lack of statistical data. So in construction projects, the major key challenge is to complete our project on estimated time because due to vulnerability of or to uncertainties, the project can delay in its completion. So it's a common phenomena in civil engineering projects, including road construction projects. So delay in construction projects also affects time and money. So there may be effects of delay are time will lower and cost of project will automatically increase. Some disputes will be there, litigations, some negotiation, and abandonment. So this is the summary of my literature view. So most of the researchers most of the researchers use ranking methods such as relative importance index method or importance index method, and the questionnaire method of survey was mostly used by the researchers to list the causes of delay from the literature. And in some most of the cases, relative importance index 5-point range scale range from 1 to 5 was adopted. And finding shows that causes of delay are usually categorized with the respect to responsible parties such as client related problems, contractor related problems, and consultant related problems, and source of delay like technical problems, geological factors, and so on. So effect of delay are defined as a time over and cost will increase, dispute litigations, and total abandonment. So buffer size methodology can also be implemented with fuzzy logic. So objective of study is to determine time buffer for uncertainties during highway projects and to develop a fuzzy logic model for interrelationship between buffer size and uncertainties. So now moving toward methodology. So this is my methodology. First, I have identified the causes of delay from the literature view and also from the expert opinions. And after the identification of causes of delay, I have identified the activities in highway construction projects. We have considered a hypothetical project over here to show how buffer can be incorporated in total project durations. And after the determination of causes of delay, questionnaire is prepared and distributed to various construction companies and for collecting data. After the collection of data, frequency and severity of delay factors were calculated for the risk factors, and those the value of severity index and frequency index were used as a input for the buffer size model. And after that, fuzzy logic after that 25 fuzzy then rules were incorporated in the fuzzy logic toolbox. And after the incorporation of fuzzy logic toolbox, buffer size for the particular activities is calculated. So this is the formula for the frequency index and severity index. So now moving toward how buffer size were calculated. So first of all, we have determined the value of input and output variable for the model. So frequency of occurrence and severity of the risk factors are the input value for the buffer size model. And by giving this input, we can get the output. And output is the size of buffer in terms of percentage of activity duration. So in step 2, linguistic variable and membership functions were defined. So linguistic variables are those variables whose value are in word or sentence, like low, very high, high, medium. And membership functions allow us to graphically represent fuzzy sets. So this is how buffer size model will look like. So these frequency and severity values are the input value for the model, and buffer size, this is the buffer size of for the total project duration or the activity. So after the calculation, after calculating buffer for the risk factors, buffer size for each activity is calculated by multiplying the size of buffer for the size of buffer for the risk factors by the importance value of that causes of delay, and by add all the values of the delay factor occurring in that particular activity. To show how this methodology work in practice, a hypothetical project or activities are considered. So these are the 25 fuzzy if then rules. We have incorporated all these fuzzy if then rules in fuzzy logic toolbox in MATLAB. So like if frequency of the risk factor is very rare and severity of the risk factor is very low, then buffer will be very small. Like this type of fuzzy if then rule we have incorporated in our study, in our model. So these are the 25 fuzzy if then rules we have incorporated. So this is the picture from the MATLAB. So we have added the value of 0.721 and the severity value of 0.737 in MATLAB, and we will automatically get the buffer size of 8.35 in terms of percentage of that duration. So these are the activities I have considered in a bitumen road project. These are the hypothetical project just for completing project on the time. So getting permission from the approval from the authorities, expropriation and mobilization of site facility equipment, and preparation of natural surface, preparation of subgrade, and after that preparation of sub base and base course and surface course. These are the hypothetical activities. So this is the example. First of all, what we have done is we have calculated the value of buffer for this risk factors. This is the activity obtaining approval from authority, and these all the delay factors these are occurring in that particular activity. First we will calculate the size of buffer for this project, these all the activities, and then multiply the size of buffer in by the importance index of the value. Importance index is the frequency index multiplied by the severity index. So by calculating the buffer for all these activity, and by adding them, we can get the buffer for this activity in terms of percentage of activity duration. So these are the results from my study. I have these are the top 10 factors with the highest buffer value, like starting work without planning, and design error, financial difficulties and deficient laborers, delay in payment of finished works, and problem of equipment land exploration, financial difficulties of owner, and change in design specification and incorrect details in drawing, and reverse because of poor material. So these are the these are the values of buffer size values for the activity, or by so getting permission, necessary permission and approval from the authorities has the buffer size of 10.89. So by considering these buffer size, we can also reduce the risk we can also reduce the risk occurring in this particular activity, like preparation of natural surface has more buffer size. So this means more the buffer size, more will be the activity related to that risk. So by considering all these considering or by adding these buffer size to the total project duration before starting of work, we can complete our project on time. So moving toward conclusion, so this study provides a methodology for construction projects to eliminate the negative impact of delays caused in terms of time and money and quality. Buffer model for highway construction project that can be minimize the risk of causing delay to various construction activities adopted. And the value of Cronenberg alpha coefficient comes up to be 0.814, and show that finding of collected survey are reliable. Input of questionnaire was subjected to frequency, and after that severity, indexing, which will we have used these frequency and severity values for the input of the buffer size model. For 25 fuzzy then rules we have incorporated in our fuzzy logic toolbox, so that we can get appropriate buffer size value for our activities. And the fuzzy rules were applied to model because sometimes it is not easy to manipulate ambiguous data, because sometimes data is unclear and not properly correlated. So fuzzy is mostly used where probabilistic assessment cannot be done. So this paper identifies the top 10 delay factors with preparation of natural surface require a maximum buffer size of 40.64% in terms of percentage of activity duration, and minimum buffer size of 10.89% approval from the authorities. So buffer size varies for each construction activities, and depending upon the various, because each project is very different in its nature, and each project contains different risk factors. So buffer are calculated in terms of percentage of activity duration, and by adding these in the total activity duration, project can be completed in time. So by calculating the buffer, the project team can identify the activities requiring immediate gearing up among simultaneously activity before the commencement of project, so that project can be completed on the its calculated time. So the result of the study can be used for the risk management, controlling, and scheduling of highway projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rahul, for this presentation. Let me take any questions from the chat box if it's available. No questions yet. So thank you, Rahul, for your presentation. Now I would like to invite Pranjal Sarma to upload his presentation and start giving.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Today I am going to present my topic on traffic analysis on intersection using PTV Vism. PTV Planning Transport Traffic Vism is a microscopic multi-purpose traffic simulation based on the behavior of traffic. It is developed by PTV Planning Transport Werke AG in Karlsruhe, Germany. There are many more simulation softwares, but Vism gives more accurate result as compared to other softwares and is mostly adopted for traffic engineers. So the intersection which we took is Dedor and Unna Jahu Nerjok Road, NH21 in Himachal Pradesh, which is in T-shape. Intersection is unsignalized, is in hilly terrain, and we took the design speed 45 kilometer per hour. For that, we took a stretch of about 120 meter, on which vehicle took 10 seconds to complete that stretch. So that's how we got our speed 12 meter per second or 45 kilometer per hour. So problem in this intersection were misjudgment of gaps in traffic. Area is prone to accidents, inappropriate intersection traffic control. Objectives to identify the problems occurring with the increasing traffic on an intersection through simulation. And second is to reduce the identify problems using PTV vision. So basically here we are actually, we will run three simulation, and for that first we have to collect data, and the data is shown here. Volume of vehicle which is collected from the intersection from 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and this table shows the relative flow of vehicles. And for a second simulation, we increase our value by 30% because due to COVID-19, our real data was less. So steps to replicate model in Vism. First step is to design intersection in Vism. Second is to reduce speed area. Third is to input vehicle in Vism. Fourth is to vehicle routing and input relative flow. After putting all data which is required for the vision simulation, we will find out the delay vehicles and QA length or QA stops of vehicle by running the simulation. For second simulation, that is for the theoretical data, we will follow the same step as mentioned before from point 1 to 5, but data will be increased by 30%. And for third simulation, we will run simulation with the traffic lights provided on an intersection. For that, we have to first find out the green time. So for that, we have this data is shown here. That is the unsignalized intersection is T-shape. Total three phases are there, and width of major and minor street is 7 meter. Volume of road A and C are 940 vehicle per hour, and for road B is 250 vehicle per hour. And pedestrian walking speed is 1.2 meter per second, which is taken from the IS 93 1985. For step 1, then we will find out the pedestrian crossing time, which comes out to be 10 seconds for road A, B, and C. And second, we will find out the minimum green time for traffic, which comes out to be 38 seconds for road A and C. And for road B, we got 10 seconds. Adding clearance amber and initial amber 2 seconds for each phases. So the total cycle time comes out to be 98 seconds. According to the IS code, cycle time is always in multiple of 5. So new cycle time 100 seconds will be taken. The extra 2 seconds can be added to the gain time of road use. So this table shows the signal timing for major state A and C. Initial amber, clearance amber, and cycle length is same for both major and minor street. And green time for major street road A and C is 38 seconds. Red time is 58 seconds. And for minor street B is 12 seconds green time, and red time is 84 seconds. Then step 3 is to check out the optimum cycle length by Webster method. So by using the Webster method, optimum cycle length comes out to be 290 seconds, which is not suitable for the signal design because it will delay vehicle. So for simulation, minimum 100 seconds is adopted. So table 1.3 values will be followed for the third simulation traffic signal timing. After finding the green time, we will input this data in Visum by adding traffic light as shown in below figure. And rest steps are same as mentioned in the previous simulation, and then we'll run the simulation. So these are the results, and this table shows the first simulation result of delay measurement and QA counters output from result. And here, and this is the result of second simulation data, which is increased by 30% in real data. And for third simulation, we with the theoretical data with 30% increase in real data, and with traffic signal we got this output. So here we compare, this table shows the comparison of vehicular delays and queue steps. So here we can see that in all the three simulation vehicular delays there is not so much variation in this, but whereas if we see in QA stops on first simulation when our data was real of the field, we got values 13, 16, 7 and 44 on each counter. Whereas when we increase our data to 30 percent, then in our second simulation we got our values 26, 78 and 71. And when we ran our third simulation with the implementation of a traffic signal, we got our values 24, 36 and 46. So results showed that with the increase in traffic volume, there was not so much variation in vehicular delays, but the number of case stop increases when we compared the first and second simulation results. When third simulation is done with the traffic cell implementation and compares the data with second simulation, it showed that there was again not so much variation in vehicular delays, but it reduces the number of queue stops. So it represents that with the implementation of traffic signal or intersection, queue stop parameter can be reduced. That's all from my side. Thank you.
So thank you, Rahul, for this Pranjal for this presentation. Now, one query from in the chat box. Did you try forming an island instead of signal?
Actually, sir, island require space, but there was not that much space available, so that's why we didn't apply.
Okay. How you define Q? Any thumb rule is there?
Q basically represent the line which we got, which we can see in the traffic when vehicles actually stops. So that comes out to be QA length basically, and the number of vehicles which stops actually we can say that QA stops.
Okay. So, how will you say vehicles are traveling in queue?
So Q actually represent the line of vehicles.
But how you will justify it that all the vehicles are traveling in queue?
Here you can see that in first quadrant there are 13 queues, on second 67 and 44. It represents there are 13 vehicles which actually stops. They are not moving. So basically this represents the number of vehicles which are actually in a queue length.
Okay. So thank you. Now I would like to invite Amardeep Bura, paper ID 14, to upload his presentation.
Hello. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Okay. So today my presentation topic is examination of platooning variables on two-lane highways having mixed traffic situations. So these are the contents containing introduction, data collection, performance parameter used in the study, statistical analysis, calibration of allosteric thresholds, discussion and conclusions. So first of all, we would like to discuss about two-lane highway which are having two lanes, one lane for each direction of traffic. Okay, so this type of highway comprise around 53% of the national highways. Okay, so there is a need to examine the performance of this type of highways in order to determine the level of service, or you can say the sustainable environment, in order to travel road user without facing any difficulties or any inconvenience. And it also helps to determine whether the public fund is utilizing in a sufficient manner or not. However, it becomes more challenges as there are several number of vehicles or which are different, having different characteristics, are traveling in a same direction and in a same lane. So for the same purpose, different studies have been conducted across the countries. First of all, I would like to discuss about the first this highway capacity manual of US HCM 2010. Before Indo HCM, which is Indian Highway Capacity Manual, we were supposed to follow this HCM 2010, but that was really wrong because we cannot implement all the guidelines or the characteristics directly on our traffic situation, because there is a difference between the both situation. Like in foreign countries, there are homogeneous traffic conditions in nature, while over here it is heterogeneous in nature. What is homogeneous? Homogeneous means there will be separate lane will be provided to some specific type of vehicles, like passenger cars are supposed to travel on same lane, while in our condition all the vehicles are supposed to travel in same lane and same direction, whether it is a auto rickshaw, motorcycle, car, bullock cart, whatever it is. Okay, so for the same, in order to examine the performance, they propose different parameters like ATS, PTSF, and PFFS. And by examining all these parameters, they propose that PTSF can be used in order to examine the performance of those specific type of highways. But in 2010, Al-Qazi and Karjala identified there is some confusion or some problem, some error is there in order to identifying the PTSF, which is percent time spent following. Means how what a vehicle is spending a time in following a slow moving vehicle which is traveling ahead of him. Okay, so because there is some difference, there is some difference in the time which are calculating this. Actually, they are overestimating it, this HCM 2010. Okay, therefore some other parameters, namely this follower density, was proposed by this Kharjala, one as one near Hasim Wahid and Moreno. Was this follower density, this number of followers and the density number of vehicle in a particular stretch of the pavement or the roadway facility. So those were found more promising measures in order to identify this performance of the highways. Still we cannot implement all these guidelines directly in our situation. Therefore there is a need to examine all these parameters for our heterogeneous traffic condition. Thereafter we can say whether we can use it or not. So in order to, as I told you, that there are several different types of vehicles having different characteristics. Therefore there is a need to uh, uh, keep all these different type of vehicle on a single platform to examine equally. Means so we have to taken care of passenger car as a standard vehicles, and to keep all other vehicles on a single platform, we have to use this PCU, passenger car unit. Okay, this formula was given by Chandra and Kumar in 2003. Okay, so where VCVI is the velocity of the passenger car and the vehicle for which we have to calculate this PCU factor. So there will be different PCU factors, static and the dynamic. So this dynamic PCU, actually we have to calculate based on the traffic flow analysis and the based on the volume of this speed of the vehicles which we want to calculate. Okay, so for this research, different study sites were selected across all over the India, like NS47, 58, 4, and SS31, SS59, which are varying in traffic volume, as you can see in this table. So proportion of passenger car, two-wheeler, auto rickshaw, heavy vehicles, and the volume, which is varying, volume is varying from 598 vehicle per hour to 2789 vehicle per hour. Okay, so different performance parameter which was used to in this study are NF, number of follower, PF, percent follower, FD, follower density, NFPC is the number of follower as the proportion of capacity. Okay, so first I want to tell you about the what is the gap and the headway. Gap is the distance between two vehicles from the rear to the front. Okay, two in between two successive vehicles, as you can see in this figure, and the headway is the difference between the two vehicles from front to front or the back to back. You can say that. Okay, so but before identifying this measure, there is a big question that how we have to identify this total of speed. USHCM 2010 tell us that we can calculate this by just looking over the very small number of 100 number of vehicles which are traveling at higher speed. So that is not actually true. So you cannot say that if a vehicle is traveling free flow speed while not in the like early stage of the day, maybe in the around 2 or 3 or around 4 or 5 p.m. o'clock, there will be some vehicle which are traveling on the free flow speed. So there is a need to identify those. For the same purpose, different researchers propose different parameters like headway vehicle. They are traveling headway, having headway less than 8 second or 6 second or the 5 second. So those parameters we have to study. So by looking at those, we identify that we cannot implement all these parameters in our Indian condition. Therefore, we propose other parameters, which is speed difference between two successive vehicles and the gap thresholds. Gap value, gap is difference between from the back to front. That is why, because gap is more promising, as there is a difference in the length of the vehicle also. So therefore we cannot go for the headway, so we use gap instead of the headway. And there is, you can see a histogram is over here in the figure B. So that is the we are going to take the vehicle which are traveling under this curve, this black line curve, which are traveling under this speed limit, speed difference limit. We are proposing a speed difference limit, and by looking at those, will be able to know that this vehicle will be are traveling in free flow condition or in the following conditions. So these are the different speed difference limit and the gap values which we are proposing over here. These are for different sections. Okay, and after looking at this, we propose a single speed difference limit, which is like minus 0.4, sorry, this minus 3.412, maximum 7 plus 7.42 kilometer per hour, and the gap values which we will cover under this 1.9 to 4.3 second. So if vehicle are traveling between these limits, so those will be identify as the followers, otherwise they will be not followers. So after that, we have to check the suitability of the different parameters, that these are suitable for our Indian condition or not, by looking at these specifications, this gap value and the speed difference limit. So while you can say different platooning variables which are responsible for making a platoon or a queue, you can say. Okay, so these are vehicles are identified as the auto rickshaw, two-wheelers, heavy vehicles, and the two-way traffic volume. So different relations were established between these platooning variables and the different parameters. So you can see in this figure, there is no pattern we are observing over here, auto rickshaw, as this is the hypothesis that whether the proportion of the auto rickshaw is going to increase, the follower or this NF, FD, PF, and NFPC are going to increase also. But you can see that data is more scattered. So therefore, we can utilize this AR as the platooning variables. And similarly, in this type of so by looking, I am over here only presenting this two-way and AR. Okay, while same type of result we observed in case of two-wheeler and the heavy vehicle also. But in case of two-way volume, we find our hypothesis in the right direction. Like these are going to increase with the increment in the two-way traffic volume, as you can see in the figure. Okay, in order to strengthen the results, we analyze the association between these different parameters with different platooning variables. Okay, so you can see this two-way volume is found more promising, and among all these two parameters, namely NF and NFPC, is showing the more association with all the parameters. Okay, while in case of PF and FD, you can see there is less; they are not associating with all the sections. Okay, thereafter we identify, we just make a relationship between this FD NFPC with two volume and FD and NFPC. So by making this model, this FD and FPC, we are proposing this model for in order to calculate or to evaluate the performance of this highway by providing different threshold values. In order to threshold values, we have to analyze this sill out plot by using this is the width and the length of the sill out plot. You will come to know that it is giving a good value and it is more promising. Okay, so this sill out plot, these are giving 0.80 and 0.65 for this square Euclidean and city block. Actually, this is the clustering analysis technique, okay, in which we have to cluster different uh, data which are related to another parameter, another locations. So we have to club those which are residing nearby. So in order to make a limit for all of this, okay, so we can interpret this sill out value as it is a thumb rule over here. So the value is ranging from 0.25 to 1. These are exhibiting the strong structure or the weak structure. Okay, so by looking at those, so we propose different LOS ranges. As you can see, projected number of follower per capacity, NFPC. So these are ranging from A to E, while F will be the more than, if this limit will exceed more than E, so that will represent the level of service of F. However, another previous study already have been conducted in India, this Panmesta et al. She also proposed some guidelines, but what is the actual problem? Actual problem is that she utilized the PTS value as suggested by the US HCM 2010. As I told you that we cannot utilize that directly without examining all these parameters for our Indian conditions. Okay, so we propose this, and now our discussion and conclusion that a gap value of 10 seconds and speed range of -4 to +10 kilometer in order to just cover all the ranges within this range. So that will be suitable for identify a follower. Okay, so two-way traffic volume is identify the most promising measures in order to identify or examining the plotting variables and also performance of those specific highways. Okay, so and this on the basis of graphical and statistical analysis that we cannot use speed related parameters, because directly on our two-lane highway act it has mixed traffic conditions. Okay, so that will vary because of the presence of another type of vehicles on the same lane, but follower related parameter are found more promising, and among all these follower related parameter, NFSC is identified as most suitable parameter followed by FD. So different ranges have been proposed for this. So these guidelines can be used for the examining the follower and follower for other type of highways, and in order to provide LOS ranges for developed countries also, developed countries, and this will help to guide traffic architects and organizer to design a highway facility. For the future scope, various segment two-lane highways can be taken up, which is a varying in traffic volume and structures. So these are the references. Thank you. If you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Dr. Amardeep, for this presentation. No queries has been asked yet in the chat box. So anyone who wishes to ask, he may write it in the chat box. We will discuss it. We have some time now.
And another thing I want to tell you that this work is related to this our Indo HCM, Indian Highway Capacity Manual. It is a part of that. Okay, so if anybody have any query, please he or she may ask.
So no query yet. So thank you, Dr. Amardeep. Now we have this is from 1 to 2 p.m. We will have a lunch time, and then after 2 p.m. we will meet and we will start this track 4 session. So kindly all the attendees are required to meet at 1:50 so that we can start at 2 p.m. sharp. And the paper ID will be 79. Madhvi Banna, she will be presenting his presentation. So thank you, and we will meet at 1:50 p.m. for next round of.
If there is a query from Dr. Abhilash Shukla, do we have any specific for homogeneous traffic in India? No, in India there is no homogeneous traffic condition at all. We are having heterogeneous in nature. Actually, all the homogeneous means same type of traffic are supposed to travel in the same lane only. There are no such kind of rule and regulations. But if we can implement those, that will be a good good work. So we can maybe in the future, that is responsibility of our government. We can just propose some ideas. Okay. So in India, there is no homogeneous traffic.
Okay, thank you, Amardeep.
Thank
So
you.
let us meet up at 1:50 so that we can start at 2 p.m. sharp. Thank you.